now tuned in to the Commissioner's Conversation.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is
Commissioner Gordon.
Yes, sir. Welcome back. You are tuned in to the Commissioner's Conversation. I am your host, Commissioner Gordon. This week, we're talking about the NFL draft that just passed by this past weekend. On the line with me, I have right now JR from JR SportBrief, friend of the show. Also, I have defensive legend, the one and only Hugh Douglas. How you guys doing?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
What up? What up? Everything's smooth, bro.
So another time after we do this one, I want to talk about some of the suits that some of these dudes was wearing. We can do a separate podcast. We can critique the fashion because it was some funny looking stuff out here. And some of the cousins was wearing some funny stuff. It was, I found a lot of comedy in what was going on out there.
I'll say this about that. We are unique people and we like to be unique. You know what I mean? Because I think back to some of the stuff that I wore, man, and I look on it now, I'd be like, Lord have mercy. Like I had a closet full of Steve Harvey suits and pink Gators. I used to remember when back at the Greenbrier Mall when you used to go get your Gators from the one spot you had to order the Maury big blocks. You can only get them from Greenbrier. So yeah, I wore some colors back in the day, man. I was not afraid of colors. So I really can't trip on the young fellas for wearing some of the suits they wear nowadays.
That was the style. I mean, I think about stuff I was wearing at that same time, like 20 years ago. I'm like, damn, how did I even fit in that? I had jerseys down to my knees. I had pants that you could fit three of me in. So things was kind of wider back then.
It was different, man. It was different. And we did different stuff. So I can't really knock it because now we become that old dude. Like, oh, I remember, look at these kids. I don't want to be that guy because I know I wore some wild stuff.
There was a defensive end. I forgot which brother it was, but he had on like capri pants and
listen. Ooh. And you two, like JR, you know just as well as I do. Like, I can't dress like you. Like, not saying that you would wear capri pants,
right?
But if you wanted to, you would look more fashionable in them than I would.
Correct.
Oh man, now it look like I'm uncomfortable. I'm snug. My body proportions is a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, dog, what the hell you doing to yourself now? Well, I mean, some suits aren't made for big fellas. It's just not.
Let's see if he's wearing the capri pants maybe like 5-6 years in. Let's see.
Oh yeah. I doubt it. I highly doubt it.
Well, you know, Cam has set a tone for some of these guys. You know what I'm saying? Cam is a trendsetter out here, so we can't just discount it. Like once he get in the league, a lot of these guys won't be wearing some of this.
Yeah, but you know, at least Cam's stuff is wild for him. But I ain't never looked at him and said, "Yo, it's ill fitting." You know, his stuff is like tailored.
Cam is like, to me, got a stylist, and I want to say, I guess, a trendsetter. Because think about it like this, Gordon. The hats that we're wearing now with the red brims and stuff.
Right.
Cam, the first cat that I saw do that. I don't know if he started it, but Cam was the first cat that I saw rocking those hats. Now everybody named Mama want to get one of those hats now. So, you know, he has set his own kind of like benchmark as far as trends are concerned.
Yeah, Cam is definitely fashion forward in terms of the NFL. Like, he got a lot of slack for it at first, but now I think guys are looking at and the more we're out and moving around and we're seeing some of the stuff when people traveling, they see the different fashion that's going on in different parts of the country and in other countries, and then people is kind of loosening up on how they point and laugh at Cam, or even now getting to the point where, like you said, they're following the footsteps. They're wearing the brims. You see it more and more. You go to the cigar lounges, guys out wearing the brims and the suits, you know. So, yeah, I think Cam was a little fashion forward, but some of these guys look like you could tell they just got a check yesterday.
Yeah, and they got the slippers. They got the Gucci slippers, and they got the super tight pants, can't breathe. And yeah, it's a little different. Definitely a little different.
Yeah, and I always found it funny the reaction of the family around the player and watch, the players like, trying to play it cool and keep it calm, and mom's going crazy, dad's high-fiving, you got the girlfriend over the side looking like, yeah, we made it. You know what I'm saying? I always find that reaction is more telling than the player's reaction, because the player's been working for this moment. And, he's been kind of prepped for this moment. Everybody else ain't been prepped for this moment, though. Everybody else is like, we won the scratch off.
Yeah. I mean, basically, because that's what it is. You did win the scratch off. Your girlfriend looking, everybody looking. And that's not a bad thing, because a lot of your family members have taken this journey with you. And they, you've had those conversations. I remember having those conversations with my homeboys. If I got $1 million, this is what I'm going to do. But you know what the unfortunate thing about all that is? When you get $1 million, all those conversations that you had before, when you talk about what you was going to do,
yeah,
some of them cats holding you to that conversation. And then I realized that, that was just talking, because some cats looking at you like, hey, man, so what's up? You said, yeah, not break a brother off. So, yeah, it's one of those things when people get excited when they see it. They definitely get excited, and they're excited for you. But they're also thinking in the back of their mind, some people, about all the promises that you made, trying to see if you're going to come through with those promises.
Yeah, keep it real, so to speak. But I will say this, in the reactionary time, like, did anybody else besides me, Pete, Justin Fields' reaction on like how he slid down, and family's going crazy and doing what they do, and he like, yeah, man, number 11, huh? All right, like you could see the chip building up on his shoulder. Like, he wasn't happy about being picked 11th at all. Like, I guess he thought he was, like, whether it was the Falcons, whether it was the 49ers, he thought he was going earlier, and number 11 to him was like a slap in the face. What were you getting ready to say, JR?
Nah, I was saying even a squad like the Panthers. Like,
right.
I'm actually happy he's going to Chicago. I hope everything works out for him there, because they've been starving for a quarterback forever. And so, he could have gone to the Falcons, he could have gone to the Panthers, he could have gone to quite a few places. But you know what? If there's a quarterback that I want to see have like a lot of success, it would be him.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. But this is the thing. And to me, that was one of the first things that I noticed. But then I go back and I think about when I got drafted, I wasn't on television, but I wasn't excited. I remember that. But at the same time, I wasn't projected to go in the first round. So that was a surprise to me. I think what happened was he believed everything that he heard about his draft status and his draft position. And that's what was disappointing to him, because to him, he felt like he should have been higher. And that's fine. But this is the thing that I always say, JR and Commissioner Gordon, is that you can't get caught up in what everybody else is telling you. You just have to go out there. You got to do your work. You got to prepare for whatever comes your way. And whatever comes your way, you just got to go out there. And if you feel like you've been slighted, you got to prove them wrong. Bottom line. But for you to sit there, and I'm not saying that he was upset. It looked like he was upset. But for you to have that kind of project over the screen like that, people are probably looking at it and be like, oh, what kind of pro is he going to be? He need to be professional. He probably just was in a moment where he was shocked he went that low.
Right.
And then maybe he was like, damn, I'm going to Chicago. Maybe he wasn't thinking that he was going to Chicago. Who knows?
Well, yeah, I don't think anybody in the city of Chicago should feel a type of way, because I don't think it was anything against the city. Like, I think once it all calmed down and settled, I think he's probably excited to be playing for the Bears. Just like JR said, like, the Bears has been a franchise that you can legit look at and say, man, if they just had a QB, they'd be a hell of a team.
The last guy was what, Jim McMahon?
Jim McMahon, last.
I mean, unless
the last decent quarterback.
Right.
Ooh, Jim Miller had him in the playoffs a couple times till they ran up on them Philadelphia Eagles, and he ran into me, but hey, that's about it.
Yeah, but then even Jake Cutler always looked disinterested. Yeah. He looked like he didn't even want to be there.
Well,
yeah.
I always call it. Go ahead.
No, they got their guy.
Yeah, I always call Jay Cutler Smoking Jay, just because of the old memes that they used to have, that with all the faces that he would have on the sideline, they would just import a little cigarette on the side, and it was always hilarious. Yeah, so, but yeah, I don't think it was anything against like the city of Chicago, honestly. I think it was just the fact that in his mind, he thought he should have been 4 or 6 or 8, you know what I'm saying? And never did he think that it would come to a point where Chicago would trade up to grab him at 11.
Nah, I don't.
Yeah.
Chicago wasn't even. They had to trade down to get him, so it wasn't even like a thought process or reality until the Giants made the swap with him. So who the hell knows what he was thinking, up until that point?
Yeah, and just kind of keeping it with quarterbacks, man. I was shocked that Denver actually didn't take him earlier. I thought once he slid, I was thinking, okay, well maybe, yeah. I know they just, they just picked up Bridgewater, but like really, but I was shocked that they didn't actually go after Justin Fields. What do you say, JR?
Nah, I was surprised. I mean, I was surprised, but I'm not. I mean, you have Locke there, you have Bridgewater. It's weird. You talk about quarterbacks in Chicago. I mean, the quarterback situation in Denver kind of been like slapstick outside of, plugging in Peyton Manning for a couple years. It's kind of been pathetic, for the past 20 years. To me, I feel like you basically went from realistically Elway, and then you fast forwarded to a couple years of Peyton Manning, and then you've been trying to figure it out since then. Tebow was a joke. I mean, it's slapstick. So I don't know what they're doing, but John Elway doesn't seem like he seemed like he jumped off of the like out of the fire. Like he gave up being general manager to quote unquote go upstairs. Like he don't want to deal with it no more.
You know what? And then there was that report right before the draft. Aaron Rodgers said what he said. He didn't want to be in Green Bay anymore. And there were some reports coming out of Denver. I think Mark Sclera was the one that said it first, where they said basically a deal is done for Aaron Rodgers if he wants to go to Denver. So, I guess, John Elway was jumping on that bandwagon, trying to make that happen. And so that's probably why they didn't pick a quarterback. And who knows what's going to happen with that Aaron Rodgers situation, because I heard in one story that he even talked about giving back some money. Like I think it's like $23 or $25 million he was talking about giving back. Man, and I'm like, hell, ain't no situation that bad. When you gonna have me giving back money, man, please. But if he's disgruntled there, then that's a place that I could definitely see being highly aggressive trying to get him.
And that was my next question. Like, what is the likelihood that he actually leaves? Because we heard, like you said, we heard Denver, we heard Vegas. But I mean, I'm in the boat of I don't really believe a whole lot till I see it. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of this stuff is all smoke and mirrors to me, or just leverage here or there. But what is the actual, I hate to say a percentage, but what would be an actual percentage that you would believe like that Aaron Rodgers actually doesn't play in Green Bay next season?
Shit, it got to be like 50-50, right? Like, to me, it's just a matter of when. Is he I always thought, even before it came out last week, that this was probably going to be his last year there. And I always felt that Green Bay just, they made a mistake. Like, they really put themselves up against the wall from when they selected Jordan Love. Is there anything wrong with, like, getting a quarterback for the future? No, not at all. But how they handle the situation, to me, is just like, oh, well, they both put the writing on the wall. Aaron Rodgers came out right away. It was just like, yo, they selected him, had no idea they was taking him. I had to go get myself a drink, whatever. He goes and wins MVP. And here they are looking at each other crazy. And it's just like, who's going to blink first? So it wouldn't surprise me if he left, but I think he might be there for one more year.
And this is the thing that I kind of jumped out to me immediately, was that Aaron Rodgers gets a pass for being unprofessional. I mean, because when you think of the NFL, that's what the NFL is. They're always looking for the next guy. Hell, he did it to Brett Favre.
Right.
And he talked about how Brett Favre handled him. And Brett Favre made it public that he was like, I'm not here to help this guy, and things of that nature. So I'm thinking to myself, I mean, and this is just me. The game, like everybody that plays football is like, you're on the milk carton. You got an expiration date. You got an expiration date when you're on the milk carton. So how do you handle that? It, to me, is very important. When I was playing, I knew my replacement was coming. Didn't know when he was coming, but I knew he was coming. So when he did when he did finally come, try to help him out as much as he can, and help him transition into the NFL because somebody did it for me. And that's just how I was brought in. But for whatever reason, man, when it comes to quarterbacks, I just feel like, they're already coddled to, first of all. and when you get in a situation where your time is up, you had a hell of a career, you're going to the Hall of Fame. To me, you kind of sully your name when you pull moves like this. Now, granted, an organization does not have to call you when they decide to make a move. But on the flip side of that, it's a courtesy call because you've done so much for the organization, they respect you. As a matter of fact, I heard before the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made their phone call, they called Tom Brady to let them know what they were going to do and if Tom was cool with it. I get that. But dude, don't nobody owe you nothing. What they owe you, they paid you. You got paid. You's a paid mofo. You got generational wealth. You're going to the Hall of Fame. You're one of the Packers' most famous quarterbacks. Dog, ain't no need for you to do this the way that you did it. Like, I was kind of looking at the timing. He announced this a couple hours before the draft. Now, dude, that's petty. In my eyes, that's super petty. That is super petty to do that. You've been sitting on this news the whole time, but then you know what? These kids, great day. They get drafted. The new kids coming in. I'm gonna go ahead and drop this bombshell on NFL today. And he was the story.
And see, that was my exact words, was petty, because I felt like it was very vindictive. It was like we all acknowledged. They didn't give him the courtesy call to say, hey, we bringing in a young guy. They also moved up to get him. They moved ahead to get him as if he was going to be a priority for him to play. And it was like, okay, y'all want to embarrass me? I got you. And so that's what I thought he was doing. He was trying to embarrass the Green Bay Packers because they did the same thing to him. So he was being vindictive and he was being petty.
They don't embarrass themselves, I would say, for at least a couple years now, just from an organizational standpoint. Like, I won't get on the bandwagon and say, oh, wow, they haven't put nothing around him. I don't believe that. Could they have done the best job? Nah, I don't think they've done the best job. Have they done or been in the best spot to communicate with him? Nah, I don't. Because the reality is, you can move on from another quarterback, but to go from Brett Favre and then have Aaron Rodgers and then have a Jordan Love who nobody has ever seen play, like, where are you going? Like, you couldn't, and I ain't never GM no damn team in my life, but for me, it's kind of common sense to go, yo, the dude is still playing lights out. Even on a down year, okay, he ain't throw 48, 50 touchdowns, he's still one of the best. You just gonna go from him to the unknown guy you're gonna develop? Can you really go from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love? The reality is, I'm just like, y'all are gonna come down here. Like, y'all could have squeezed out a legitimate maybe 3-4 more years. Y'all ain't have to just do it like this. So I think it's ridiculous. It's no different than Pete Carroll. And obviously Russell Wilson is younger, and I get it, but it's like it goes to the point that Hugh's saying. Like, a lot of the dudes now is different. And me personally, I don't care what anybody is doing. Like, I'm happy that the players are calling out the management, because management a lot of times will treat you like crap whenever you want to. But I'm just like, yo, you have a Hall of Fame quarterback in a Russell Wilson. He on his way. You got a dude who ain't never missed a game, never missed this, and you won't give him the courtesy. You don't got to give in, but you won't give him the courtesy of just trying to keep him happy a little bit, at least listening to him. That's the part that gets me.
Well, yeah. And it's kind of like, when you think about it, JR, kind of like what we're dealing with here in Atlanta. Like, I was on the boat. I thought they were getting a quarterback. I swear to you, I thought the Atlanta Falcons were drafting a quarterback because you got a new regime coming in, and you feel like that's the smart move to make, especially when you're drafted at 4, haven't been in that position before. You're moving on from the quarterback. But the moves that they made last weekend let me know that Matt Ryan is going to be here at least for 3 years, maybe 5. And that's how they look at Matt Ryan. And they're going to make a run. As a matter of fact, Coach Smith said that today. They're not here to rebuild. They're here to make a run. And so they put talent around him and they are going to make a push. Now, I don't know what that defense is going to look like. We're going to have to try to figure that out. But as far as offense is concerned, if they keep Julio Jones, they're probably going to be one of the most formidable offenses in the NFL.
And that's the question, if they keep Julio Jones, because, I mean, Julio has been one of the guys who has made it, known that he's about his business. He comes out, he goes to work. He's about it. When somebody else gets paid, he said, hey, this dude ain't worth what I'm worth. I need to renegotiate. No matter how many years away out of his contract he is, he always is trying to get paid his money. So if he did get traded, I was saying on the podcast earlier that he understands that it's a business. He shouldn't feel a certain type of way. He shouldn't feel like how we were talking about Aaron Rodgers is feeling. He shouldn't feel that way because he understands that that's the nature of the game and it's a business. He's been in the game long enough to know that. But as a fan, I would love to see Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, and Pitts out there. My only question after that was, who's the running back? Me and JR talked about this before. I thought we would address a running back situation, and we really didn't.
Well, I think because they got Mike Davis, that he is going to be the guy. He's going to be a primary running back. And then you think about Mike Davis a little bit older. I think he's like 28, 27, 28, something like that. But he doesn't have the wear and tear on him like other running backs do. He can catch the ball out of the backfield, and he can be that bruiser. And when you think about when you got the opportunity to go 2 tight end sets with a big running back like that, because he's something we haven't had here in a long time. You got the opportunity to go 2 tight end sets with a big back like that. You're going to be playing a lot of games where, like when you look at time of possession, the Atlanta Falcons might be winning that battle every time. That's kind of how I see it, especially when you have Hayden Hurst that's out there, first round talent. You got the young man you just got, Kyle Pitts. You got Calvin Ridley out there. You got some other young receivers out there. And if you have Julio, man, it's all about matchups in the NFL. And I don't think you have enough people on defense that's going to match up and be able to cover everybody. So if they're going to play that game, I like the Falcons' chance.
Yeah, I see the Falcons lighting it up from the air. I mean, and I hate to say it, but I feel like it's similar to years past, but just with a younger weapon out there. You have a new offensive line that you're going to have to hope develops. Alex Mack is gone, and it's the same thing on the defensive side of the ball. So I think that they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. I would expect them to do better than what they've done over the past few years, but I find it real hard pressed. And I think they kind of forced. It'd have been nice. In an ideal world, they would have got a quarterback. In an ideal world. But we don't live in an ideal world, and they still got to pay Matt Ryan. So I think they're on the hook. But I can't realistically say I'd be shocked if they can throw it back into being competitive. A few years ago when Matt Ryan was an MVP and they was going into the Super Bowl. Like, I find that real tough to believe. This might be like a longer string out, but if anything, it gives Fontenot and I guess Smith, it gives them a longer runway. Because let's say you do have Matt Ryan 3 more years. Once you bring in a new quarterback, you gonna get you basically gonna get like another 4 years, I think, maybe 3, just to start.
That's what I thought. You know what, JR? And that's why I thought if you're gonna do it at the beginning of your tenure. If you get a tenure, do it at the beginning. Get the quarterback now. Let him sit behind Matt Ryan for a few years. I felt honestly that you could still do both in this draft. You could be competitive, and you could have got the young quarterback to sit. I don't have a problem with Kyle Pitts. Let me say that first and foremost. I think that he'll be a great weapon and a great addition to this offense. But when you talk about the overall big picture and this fan base, to me, the quarterback made the most sense. Getting a young quarterback nowadays made the most sense. Because let's face it, a lot of people can't stand Matt Ryan here.
Right.
And we all know why they can't stand Matt Ryan here. We know why we don't have to say it. We all know why. And to draft another young African-American quarterback, I think it would have brought a lot of these people back to the stadium, and a lot of people would have watched the game. They would have been excited about the games. I mean, I think they're still going to be excited, but they'd have been even more excited if you'd have gotten Justin Fields, hometown kid, to be the quarterback of the Atlanta Falcons.
I was hoping that was going to happen. We saw it didn't. you know what? If I'm thinking selfishly though, and I guess this is where it boils down to, okay, what's Arthur Blank's comfort level with saying, okay, I still got to write this check. If I'm selfish and I'm the GM, I'm saying to myself, all right, I'm stuck with this guy. You kind of sticking me with him because of the old guy. Don't blame me. Blame Dimitrov.
Right.
Okay, I'll try to rock it for 2 years, and if it doesn't work, well, guess what? You still gonna have to pay me for another 4 or 5 because you didn't allow me. You didn't allow me to do my own thing.
And think about it like this, and I'm coming at it from the fan standpoint, that if you draft Justin Fields, and we all know Matt Ryan gives you some of those moments where you looking like, man, damn, if you'd have just let the ball go, or if he could get it out to Julio or he can get it out to Pitts, the crowd at as much capacity as it could be would be screaming for Justin Fields, and that would make Smith have to make a decision and put pressure on him to make a choice faster than he probably would want to.
Yeah, but I look at it like this. If I'm the head coach and I tell you that I'm not playing this young man this year, he ain't no way he's going to get on the field, then damn it, he ain't getting on the field. I mean, because I have in my mind where I want him to be, you know, and to rush him out there, that is ridiculous. I remember when Andy Reid drafted Donovan McNabb and Doug Peterson was a quarterback. And he told Donovan, you're going to sit for a while. And he did sit. He sat for the majority of the season. And then when he played in spurts, but he brought him along slowly. And I think Donovan benefited tremendously from that, man. And Andy gave Andy a chance to build the offense around him and allow him to his attributes to show. I think that's important, man, because think about it like this. A lot of times when quarterbacks are drafted, say the Trevor Lawrence down there in Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence is going to start right away.
Right.
Trevor Lawrence in his career playing football has lost like what, 3 games?
3-4 games.
3 or 4 games in his whole life. Trevor Lawrence is about to lose a ton of games this year. Trevor Lawrence is about to get his back beat in. He's about to get his back beat in. I'm here to tell you. And if you've never been through that, I don't know how you're going to respond to that as a quarterback, because you are going to, like, dude, this dude has never had, I don't think, anything negative written about him in the paper. No kind of adversity. How long you think that shine's going to last down there in Jacksonville?
Well, that's already
and how
worn off.
Huh?
That already wore off because everything came out about, I think, either him or his wife saying that he's good with or without football. And then everybody said, oh, he don't love the game. Here it is. He doesn't have.
That's what I'm saying. It's like you're the number 1 overall pick. Dude, you go out there, say for instance, he go out there. I don't even know how many picks the young man has thrown in his career. I don't think a whole lot. You go out there in the first game, you throw 3 picks. You look horrible, which he probably will look horrible. They're gonna, like, dude, you get 1 game and then they're gonna start raking you over the coals. Remember when it was what, Blaine Gabbert, and he was out there and they thought he was that guy? Man, come on. Hey, dude, everybody's not built to handle that pressure playing that position. And you see it every Sunday. You see some guys that fold. You see some guys that rise to the occasion. And we just have to wait. What'd you say, JR?
No, I say it's tough now because the dudes ain't getting the same amount of rope that they used to get.
No,
I mean, even it's just like, yo, if we throw you out there, like somebody like Drew Lock, everybody kind of knows Drew Lock is on his way out the door. But you got dudes like, I don't think we'll ever see dudes get selected that high that don't sit for just more than a year, where you kind of get that Lamar Jackson, or even you get Pat Mahomes he was put away for an entire year behind Alex Smith. Like them days is over.
Tua Tagovailoa. How many he played? Like 5 games.
5-6 games, and they already talking about.
Bruh, they already said they don't know if he the guy. How the hell you know if he the guy? You play games, you don't even know if he the guy yet. And you know what the most egregious thing to me is? You have NFL analysts that's on the big show. Say it quick. Well, we don't know if he's the guy. How do you know? How did you know when you play, you were the guy 6 games in? How did you know? You don't have time, man. The game has changed and evolved so much. You know what's funny that I learned like a couple years ago? Like when you go to OTAs and training camps and stuff. Say if you go to the OTAs and you just chilling, you just run around, whatever, you're being evaluated. Like that's your, because you don't practice the way you used to. You don't practice in pads. So now you get evaluated on the way you work, study. Would you say maturity?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. You get on your study habits, on how you remember the plays and all. Like you're being graded differently now. Not like it was back in the day when you went out there and shoulder pads and helmets. And like if you screwed up a play, but you was going 100 miles an hour, you were good and all this other stuff. No, bro, everything that you do from the time you walk into that building, you're being evaluated. Well, you know, he didn't pick up the defense. He didn't remember his plays and stuff like that. Man, they ain't got time to be waiting on you to come around. They gonna get your butt up out of here for real.
Now, with that being said, how long will it be before we see Trey Lance starting QB for the San Francisco 49ers?
Not this year. I would say not. He ain't gonna see the field this year. He'll probably see well, I was about to say spring ball. I mean, what they call it, preseason. I forgot the name. Preseason. Yeah, he's gonna see
those
preseason.
games is disappearing too, damn it.
Yeah.
Those games disappearing too.
He gonna see scout team. He gonna see a whole lot of scout team.
You know what? I would say I would agree with you, Hugh. But Jimmy Garoppolo, man, they're gonna have to find a good bubble for him to play in.
But JR, he ain't like that was the consensus between him and Justin Fields that we were told. That Justin Fields was more like, okay, it was two quarterbacks that was ready right now. Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence. The other two guys, like maybe Justin Fields, maybe Trey Lance. But they were probably gonna sit. Now we know up there in Chicago, who's the quarterback in Chicago right now? Durant Rice. Oh, he go like Justin has a chance to play this year. I think Jimmy Garoppolo gets this year because now you're talking about, like they say the young man is smart as the whip. I think they give him week 13. How about that? It all depends on what the 49ers.
The Niners, just because the Niners like running that ball, remember how they used Justin Fields over with the Bulldogs? They basically they put him in the game and they said,
run the ball, okay.
They said he'd take it. And then the other thing is, if Jimmy go out there and sprain an ankle, I think Nate Sudfeld is out there. And you'll see Nate, but I think even if Jimmy Garoppolo get hurt, I think you'll see it'll almost be like Drew Brees. Even though you didn't see Jameis and Taysom Hill got the ball, they're gonna be like, listen, we're gonna give the black guy the ball. Let's be deceptive. let's try to smooth him out just a little bit.
You know how bad that sounds. Hey, you know what, Nate? You've played NFL a few years, but you know what? Go ahead, young cat. This young African American right here. Because he got that skill set that you ain't really.
That's how they did it. They killed me at Georgia. They had Jake Fromm. I don't know where Jake Fromm is. I think he in Buffalo or something last.
He's in Buffalo.
Yeah, he's up in Buffalo, and they talked about him in the draft last year, and oh man, and Jake Fromm this and Jake Fromm that, and it's just like every time Justin Fields was on the field, you just like, they ain't gonna let that man throw the ball.
No.
Just run up the middle, bro. And it's just like, damn, why do they do a man like that?
And then you heard Ruben. He don't know the defense. He can't read the defense. All the other stuff. Then he go to Ohio State, light it up. But I tell you what, with that being said, and I think he was a victim of circumstance when it comes to that, because I said this the other day. When you look at Ohio State quarterbacks that have come out of Ohio State, when was the last one that you remember made some noise in the NFL? It's been a while. Yeah. Dwayne Haskins, Dwayne Haskins is, we don't know what it is. Cardale Jones, dude, I honestly believe one of the knocks on Justin Fields was the fact that people say that they don't do a great job of developing quarterbacks at Ohio State.
But I saw what you tweeted out and I appreciate it. I said the same thing on air. It's just like, okay, it can be a knock. I had a caller call me up, and he went beyond the school. He went beyond Ohio State. He started talking about the whole conference, and I'm just like, you basically went from you dumb because you went to a bad school to you dumb, your whole district is awful. And it's just like, come on, man. You can't do that. You can't evaluate. You can't just paint folks with a gigantic broad brush.
But fans do, because, just like, it's a consensus that most people feel that SEC is the best conference. No question about that. And I think the SEC had like 20-some odd guys.
Yeah, Alabama had like 8-9 guys, maybe plus by itself.
Right.
Yeah. And so
6 day one.
it's like, so it's like you don't see, like, people say that's the best conference. But I'll ask you this. Out of all those guys that got drafted, how many of them going to be all pro or Pro Bowls? I mean, people look at the conference. It's a great conference. Don't get me wrong, it is. But it's other guys that played at other schools that could play. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, they didn't get the opportunity to go to Alabama. They didn't get the opportunity to go to Ohio State. They can still play. And I think that people get so caught up in names, man, and conferences and things of that nature. And another thing, I think it's on your coaching too, because we don't talk about that. Coaches are under a lot of pressure a lot of times to play these kids, but they don't know how to groom these kids and get them prepared to be professionals, man. That's another thing. And I know a lot of people, like, when they hear that, they're like, what you mean? He's making a ton of money. That's why they pay coaches. The coaches are there to teach you. And the unfortunate thing about all of this is this, that there's so much pressure to win that coaching falls by the wayside. You don't have time to coach. I remember when my coach, Sugar Bear, Ray Hamilton, used to play for the New England Patriots back in the day. When I came in, I struggled with learning the playbook because every day you learning something new because they're trying to put the plays in. Ray took me out the class, like, hey, man, we're going to draw this up on the board because you about to get this. Because, damn it, we drafted you first from that small-ass school you came from. We ain't about to be looking like no fool.
So I just during watching the draft, man, it was funny to me because I wanted the Falcons to pick up this young man. We were talking about the Najee Harris. And when the Steelers picked him, the first thing I could think of was, damn, that's like the ultimate Pittsburgh pick. Like,
yeah, the running back.
Right.
the running back. Like, listen, man, let me tell you two things the Pittsburgh Steelers do. Well, I would probably say, no, two things. Because Le'Veon Flowers was a pretty good player. So I say three. They draft them safeties pretty good. They pretty good because Lee Flowers is a pretty good player.
Yeah.
Linebackers for sure.
Yeah.
And running backs. That's a Pittsburgh staple. And think about it, man, when you talk about their philosophy, their defensive philosophy, only thing that really has changed as far as Pittsburgh Steelers are concerned is probably the offensive philosophy. They throw the ball a little bit more. But the first thing that comes to mind when you think of them Steelers is physical and defense. And that has been the staple since I can remember, way back in the day.
And I think to be honest, I think it's a good continuity plan. Like, we don't know how long Najee Harris is going to be playing, but we know that Ben Roethlisberger, he ain't going to be around for a long time. And if you got to move into an off season or 2 years where you still trying to figure it out, hopefully you can at least hand the ball off to him,
right?
And at least be a transition rather than, damn, we don't know who the quarterback is, and damn, we just out here cycling through running backs. So I think that's a good plan. Steelers all about continuity. That's the beautiful thing about them. You kind of know what you're gonna get
every year, and you know what kind of team they're gonna be. They're gonna be physical, and they're gonna pound the rock. They're gonna pound the rock, bro. I tell you, they're gonna do that.
And to segue into the whole other end of the spectrum, your Jets, JR, I mean, we knew that Zach was the guy, but they seem to be putting some pieces around him that make it seem like they actually got a plan this time.
Yeah, it's just crossing fingers and see if it works. This goes to Hugh's point earlier on in the show. There's a good chance that he's just going to be thrown right out there. Mm-hmm. And he is, I'm not going to say wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, but he's just getting thrown right into the blender. They don't have no other legitimate quarterback behind him. Obviously, at some point in time, they're going to grab a veteran. And he got the folks around him. It's just a matter of how much what he can do and how much leeway he's going to have to make it work. But getting another offensive lineman and taking a lineman last year and having all these wide receivers and even grabbing running backs, like, hopefully they don't rush him. And I think everybody understands the process in New York. I think you just got to be patient with him. And that's something that New York generally ain't had.
Godspeed, because I'm looking at the draft picks, and they got him, they got Elijah Bear Tucker, the offensive lineman, Elijah, they got Michael Carter, and what we just talked about, a good running game is a young quarterback's best friend.
Right.
But they're gonna take umps, and just as well as I do, JR, because I was there. Jets are treated like second-class citizens in New York, so it's gonna be tough on them because it's all about the Giants, especially when you're in a position where you're sharing the stadium. So they're going to have to hit the ground running. They got their young quarterback, man, but you just be concerned. The biggest concern is if it's the right place for him to be.
Right.
Because, it's heard his mom come on there, and she said it to a man. She was like, New York is far away from home. That's the reason why we wanted him to go to Utah, because he was close to home. So I'm thinking that his parents are going to have to be there, man, a huge support system for him, which is not a bad thing. But the city is like, New York hits different. It's different. And if you're not used to being there, man, and I can just imagine what New York looked like now, because I remember New York back when on 40 Deuce don't look like it look now. They don't, hey, JR, 40 Deuce didn't look like that back then. 40 Deuce was different. So I can imagine what it's like now. I can just imagine what it's like, what people into.
I hope for, and this is the thing, and over the years, and it's been like that. The players are encouraged. Don't go through the tunnel. Don't cross the bridge. Stay over here in New Jersey. Just stay here. Don't go into New York. And I think the thing for him, and this might be a help that we're in a pandemic, because legitimately, if we was in a normal time right now and Zach Wilson was drafted, he would have been doing the super media tour all throughout New York City. He would be sitting there doing fashion shoots. They would have him. He's doing this on his own on social media. He's standing around in a suit. He would be doing interviews. He would have gotten like shock. He would have just got culture shock to the amount of tension, and he would have sucked it up. I think it's good that he can go from Utah to New Jersey, stay at the facility, be around his family, try to understand, yes, I'm playing in New York, but don't act like you're on 42nd Street, like you on 34th and all of the Macy's lights is on you. Stick to football, because there's folks worse than me. There are people who will slaughter him for no damn reason. And it's just because he has a bad game. And the fan base will be understanding that he's brand new, but that only lasts for so long before folks start going, yo, we took this dude at number 2. We just went through with Sam Darnold, and now we're back here. And so I think the team is doing the best job it can with construction. I think it's going to be up to them to keep him kind of isolated along with his family. And it's ultimately going to be up to him, because to me, and it goes beyond his looks, I joked and I said, he don't look like he could cross the street by himself, but he's a baby. And let's see, I'd like to see if he got a mean streak, if he got I don't give a F in him.
Oh, he's going to have to have, because he's the quarterback of the New York Jets, the long-suffering New York Jets. The New York Jets fans have been suffering a long time. And they are looking at him, and they want him to be the guy. Because from my perspective and what I've heard, a lot of Jets fans were mad because they felt like they didn't put a lot of talent around Sam Darnold. They felt like he got a raw deal. So now you got the new coach coming in, and you got to help this young kid out, man. So yeah, it's gonna be tough. Jets fans are gonna want him. They're gonna want results. They're gonna definitely want results.
Yeah, and then one thing I found interesting about this draft, and I wanted to ask you, Hugh, like there was a stretch. We had a whole stretch where everybody was taking, whether it was outside linebackers or edge rushers or whatever, but it seemed like everybody was like 6'5", 270, and they was running 4-4-5 or something. I was like, damn, where are they bringing these guys from? Like, just that impact of how fast, because people don't understand. You hear 4-5, you hear 4-5, you don't understand how fast that is for a dude like
That's moving.
265, 270 pounds.
That's moving for a big guy. No question about that. That's moving. And when you talk about how much the game has evolved, this is a passing game. And I remember back in my day when I played, you didn't have defensive linemen, two platooning like you do now. But the game has become so offensive friendly, and it's become catered so that the offense can score a lot of points. You got to keep fresh pass rushers on the field, and that's what people want. They want those guys that used to play linebacker but had a little bit of a growth spurt. So now they want to put their hand in the dirt, like a Vic Beasley. Vic Beasley, one of the knocks on Vic Beasley was when he came in, he was too light. And I was like, he could play it that way. He just needs to learn how to leverage his body. And you saw that when you had 15 sacks. But the game has changed so much. And that's the thing I'm talking about as far as coaching is concerned. The game has evolved. The preparation for players has evolved. So now it's like a revolving door of athletes coming in. Because think about it.
The younger too.
Yeah.
The coaches are younger.
Yeah. And think about it like this. When I played back in the day, football was something that you did all year round. You practiced all year round. You actually had to put pads on. The way that they have this CBA now, JR, they don't have to wear pads probably 10 times the whole season. Dude, that's just like a carpenter going out there trying to hammer without a hammer, air hammer, trying to get his craft right. You can't do it, man, but that's what they wanted. So with that, the game has evolved where you don't have that much time to teach and coach. Everything is like on PowerPoint or something. You can't actually get out there and coach. So what happens is the game suffers, but it really doesn't because everybody's still watching. You know what I mean? But when you look at the quality of play as far as the defensive line is concerned, guys aren't like they used to be. You always hear they're looking for the next pass rusher. A lot of guys don't know how to use their hands. A lot of guys don't know how to bend the corner. You know, that's why you got guys like Chase Young and the Bosa twins, the Bosa boys doing well because they were taught that in college. The kids that are coming into college nowadays, they're not getting that kind of coaching because they're athletic. You know, when you hear, like, perfect example, Azeez Ojulari, you hear people talking about him and say, hey, man, he has the athletic ability, but he ain't got good hand fighting skills. He didn't learn that. When I played, I didn't learn that until I got to the pros. Told you about my coach that taught me that. You don't have the time anymore to do all of that. That's why I say it's important that the coaches teach these young players, especially when you talk about the quarterback position, because you're talking about, you're trying to teach a young man, especially at the quarterback position, to come in and do some of the same thing he did in college when the talent is so much better and it's so much faster than what he had to go against in college. Because think about it like this, JR. When you're in college, matchups, they're big in the NFL, but they're really big in college football because you don't have 5-star recruits all over the place.
Yeah.
You might have a 2-star guy out there that just worked his butt off that you can take advantage of because you got a 5-star receiver that's bigger and stronger than him, just run past him. Or you might have a 2-star D tackle or a 2-star offensive lineman going against a 5-star athlete and he just beating him like a drum. So it ain't like that. NFL, if you're not that athletically gifted, you have technique. Because that's what it is. You have technique. And if you see it, think about it. You got a lot of cats, especially the offensive line. Those cats, that's why they play longer than anybody, because you see the guys that are teaching these young men, even in the offseason, to go out there and be good offensive linemen, work on your technique, because they're not as athletically gifted as the other guys. That's why they play longer. Defense, hey man, listen, if y'all some defensive players, listen, y'all better get one man Chuck or somebody to teach you something if you want to play a long time, because speed only gonna take you so far. It's only gonna take you so far in this game. It's only gonna take you so far.
But even with that, like you touched on it earlier, you have more games, you got less practice time. They want to have less preseason games. They're trying to cut down the preseason games. When the hell do you have time to get better?
You gotta.
You don't.
You got. Hey man, listen. You better get your butt in the weight room in all season. You better start working on your technique. Who is it? Willie Anderson. You play tackle for the Bengals.
Bengals, yeah.
Listen, shout out to Willie, man, because I see Willie working with these kids. And when they got drafted, he shouts out the kids that he worked with. Because you know what? I hate to say it, but offensive linemen, they're smarter than defensive linemen. Because they know that they are at an athletic disadvantage. And so in order for them to get better and have longevity in the league, they have to work on their technique all the time, because you're not going to get that kind of work with the coach. Coach ain't got time. Think about it. He got to go out and recruit. He on the recruiting trail trying to get your replacement. And the easier you make his job, the easier it is for him to go out and do what he needs to do to get other players in there. So you got to take it upon yourself, man. You got to go ahead and get with guys that are going to teach you. When you come to the off season, no, you can't be going to Cancun with your boys or anything like that, trying to holler at some chicks. If you really serious about it, man, you got to get in there and work on your technique. That's why when Coach Quinn was trying to get Vic Beasley to come back and work. Vic, I understand Vic said he had his guy he was working with and all this other stuff, and he had his own personal stuff that he was dealing with. But Vic Beasley sitting at home right now. First round draft pick, number 9 overall. I don't think he's in the league right now.
I don't think anybody.
And that's like what, 7 years
after Tennessee, it was over, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, I mean, like, dude, like, bruh, if you want to play this game, man, like, listen. And I know it's hard to say, and it's hard to do. It's easy to say, hard to do. You gotta sacrifice some things. You can't be at the club popping bottles every night. You got to work on your craft, man. You got if that's what you want to do. Now, if you just want to get drafted to get you a nice whipping or watching a nice little honey, then that's cool too. But the game is changing, man. You ain't gonna be in it that long if you ain't about that action.
I'm real interested to see, because the game is already different. If you look back, forget from when you played, Hugh. Even if you go back like a few years ago. Like, we gonna have a 6,000 yard passer. Like, it's coming. Like, you remember
all the time. They throwing the hell out of
them. Remember them leagues? I don't know, little know nothing leagues that you'll see that pop up, like American Gladiator type football on a Saturday, and it looked like everybody's just video game playing, and it's just
Some of the arena league.
Yeah, the league. Yeah. I think the league is moving into like a faster pace. Like, if we fast forward 10 and 15 years from now, what the NFL is going to look like, it's literally going to be like, yo, we going to air this ball out. Who coming down with it?
Yeah,
that's it.
It almost be like a 7-on-7 league.
Right.
Yeah. And think about it like as a former player. Like, I remember 9-on-7. I used to hate doing 9-on-7s. And 9-on-7 is basically where you line up. It's 7 of y'all against 9 offensive players, and y'all bang. Only person that ain't live is the quarterback. And you bang, and you get your run fits, and you get your technique. You work on your techniques and everything. Cats don't do that no more, man. Cats don't do none of that, because you know why? Everybody's throwing the ball. That's why when you see, like, think about back in the day, how hard it was to run the football. Now you see Derrick Henry out there beasting cats. You know why? Don't nobody know how to tackle Derrick Henry's big ass. Like, you got DBs that see him and be like, shit, I'm not about to tackle that big dude, right? Because you don't know how to tackle him. I remember playing with Troy Vincent, man. He said, hey, that big joker come up with me, I'm cutting him. He goes straight low because he cutting him. Or I remember Al Harris was like, hey, man, don't let that cat get outside of you, because you had to play the run. The run was a big deal. That's why when you have teams that can run the ball somewhat successfully, they're having success, especially in the playoffs, because ain't nobody used to playing the run anymore.
Well, how many players do you legitimately see get the handoff and just go? Everybody's trying to cut around. Everybody's popping off the screen. Think about Alvin Kamara. Mm-hmm. I mean, he could go and get you 800 in the air, get you 800 on the ground. But how many of those rushes where it's just like, all right, we're gonna set you up, right behind center. We're gonna hand the ball off. You go find a hole. Like it don't even happen like that no more.
No, you talking about where they had to sit and dance a little bit, then take off.
Yeah.
No, it's because quarterbacks making a ton of money, and everybody chicks like the deep ball. Yeah. I mean, it is. Chicks love the deep ball. It is what it is.
Well, I mean, even with that though, you have more and more college coaches coming into the game now. Like I was just looking at with Urban Meyer, he drafted Trevor Lawrence, and then turned around and got Travis Etienne. And I'm thinking, okay, is he going to use him in the slot, or is he going to try to run like this option style game with these two dudes who like they were doing at Clemson?
Of course.
Yeah. Continuity.
Like, yeah.
Like what you used to.
Yeah. Like the terminology might be different.
Right.
But yes, why do you think, and I use Cam Newton as an example, because I think it kind of started with him. The RPO kind of actions, the college, because Ron Rivera knew that, Coach Rivera, I should say, knew that in order to get my quarterback where I need him to be, I have to give him something that makes him comfortable.
Right.
And see, that it's a blessing and a curse, in my opinion, is because now you're getting these quarterbacks NFL ready because you're doing things that they're comfortable with. You're running blocking schemes that they're comfortable with. Man, listen, I've seen more RPO in the NFL this year, and what was it, last year too? Well, last year, because this year we ain't had no football season yet, but last year than I've ever seen before. RPO concepts. That's straight college. You got the running back, the quarterback feeding the ball, then pull it out and dump it over here. Dog, Cass was too fast for that. And Cass was getting, like, defensive lineman was getting up the field. They were taking that out. It's changed, but that's partly because you're trying to get these young quarterbacks. There's so much pressure to get these young quarterbacks on the field. You got to give them something that they can relate to. Yeah. And that's why you have coaches running pro-style offenses, but they're running pro-style offenses with those RPO concepts. So now they're just coming to the league and changing the name. It's the same thing they're running in college, though.
That's why I'm real interested to see how Mac Jones works out in New England, because his ass ain't running no damn way unless he want to get eaten alive. But, Belichick got 2 tight ends out there. It's still a power game. I'm be real interested because the game is moving away from that stationary quarterback, just ball out and throw. So that's one dude I'm real interested to see what he ends up being.
But you know what the funny thing I would say about that is this, and you're right, the game is going to the more athletic quarterback, but you still got to be able to throw it from the pocket, though. Like, you still got to be able to deliver that thing from the pocket. And Tom Brady showed us that last year. Yeah. Like,
you got the time.
But you had a defense. That's what I'm saying, man. Look at that defense. They harassed Patrick Mahomes that whole game. He didn't have time to do nothing. And that's the point. Like, dude, I think that in order for your team to have success, offense is going to be offense. Guys going to stretch the field, all that stuff. Dude, you got to have them bounty killers on defense, man. You got to have those hunters out there, man, that play that old school style of football. Because listen, I don't like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at all. But man, they were out there hunting. And they played physical all across the board. You talk about from the secondary to the linebacker play to the defensive line play. Dude, I get goosebumps just thinking about it because that, like, no matter what, it's kind of like basketball. Like everybody shooting the lights out the gym during the regular season. Yeah. But in the playoffs, it's a different game. You need that big dog out there on the court because it's a half-court game. It's different. Yeah. And you can see teams like, even, I know we're talking football, but I'm going to go back, like the Sixers and what they doing up there. The big fellas starting to get their shine. So, yeah, it's a different game when you're getting ready for the playoffs, man. It really is.
Yeah, that's why I look at the Bills. Even last year looking at the Bills, I'm just like, y'all got this dude, y'all using the hell out of him in Josh Allen, and y'all might have got him some veteran help in Manny Sanders. But I've always looked at, okay, what's on your defense? Like the defense for Buffalo, okay, you got Tre'Davious, but outside of that, it's starting to get light, especially up front. It's like
because then they traded away a D tackle in order to get what Stephon Diggs is somebody. They kind of compensated off of defense to get some offense.
Yeah, but
or things like that. Yeah,
they got nobody up front.
Yeah, you gotta have that defense, man. Because when it's time to hunt, you need them hunters up front that's gonna get at the quarterback. You gotta have them.
Gee, this thing telling me 10 minutes, bro.
All right, well, shoot, I'll wrap it up real quick, man. One, before we get out of here, I just got to get my pettiness in, because it always seems like this is the second year in the row that I have been laughing at the New Orleans Saints draft, man. Is it something that I'm missing, or these dudes were just drafting garbage? Well, I won't say garbage, because you had to be something to get to where you are, but they reached on a lot of players. Because for the second year, like I said, second year in a row, it kind of left me scratching my head and then kind of chuckling to myself, because, you know, like I said, I'm looking for that downfall.
Are you talking about Ian Book, the quarterback? Is that?
Well, that's one of them. And what's my guy? The DN from Houston that they went to early.
Oh, early, yeah, real early, yeah.
Listen, man, I don't know like what they're thinking in their war room, and we all have an opinion about this, but this is how I look at it, and I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt, because when you look at the Saints, like, people have been counting them out for the last couple of years. I remember, when I first got to Atlanta, I remember they were talking about the demise of Drew Brees when his shoulder was messed up and how they weren't going to be there. And they managed to be in the playoffs damn near every year after that. And they managed to be a formidable team every year after that, regardless of what you look at. They've been in cap hell for the last 6 years. They've been in cap purgatory for the last 6 years. But Sean Payton and that regime has figured out a way to field a competitive team. Every time, even when they had Matt Tateo down there, they figured out a way to be competitive. So it's one of those things, man, when we're on the outside looking in, it's easy to criticize until you see what they were thinking, the method to their madness. Because listen, man, the one thing that I do know about the NFL, everybody has a philosophy that they want to follow, and they try to get those guys that fit that philosophy, i.e. the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Right.
So you got to wait and see how, like, the individual piece might not look like much to you, but wait till you see how they put all the pieces together, and then you got to judge what they're doing. Because, man, I can't say too much bad about the Saints, because they've been a competitive ass team for the last couple of years.
They have been competitive, and I still talk bad about them.
And you supposed to, you supposed to.
But yeah, listen, we got to do this again, because Hugh just you tried to interject some basketball, and I wanted to go there with you, but we don't have the time. So, like I said, we got to chop it up again. But I appreciate you guys for coming out and you know, giving me your time. And like I said, this has been the Commissioner's Conversation with me, your host, Commissioner Gordon. You got JR Sports Brief. You got Hugh Douglas. Once again, I thank you guys for coming out. Until next week.
Peace.
Later.